Hello there, this is Elise Benin, and welcome to the next episode. This is the third in my series of marketing blueprints, excellent examples, and we are looking today at excellent examples of LinkedIn profiles of agency owners, both remote agencies and the more traditional kind of design firms, and why I think they're great. So here we are. If you're following along on YouTube, I have a playlist of marketing blueprints, and you can see that there are two so far. This is the third in the series. And if you want to see the links to some of the profiles that I am linking to and talking about, you can go to the marketing-mentor.com toolbox and you scroll down, not too far, to excellent LinkedIn profile examples, and you click on that and you get this page here, and you can see the different categories: copywriters and content strategists, designers, and agency owners. And what I'm doing is highlighting three, following the rule of three, highlighting three aspects or items in each profile that I like and think works well, which you can borrow for your own purposes and adapt to your particular profile, mix and match. So let's jump right in. The first one is Jim Gorman of Gorman 360. And the first thing I want to call your attention to here is Jim's title. There are a lot of words there, but there's more than that too. Gorman 360, 360-degree advertising, marketing, branding, and creative for aviation and aerospace. And then he's got his URL, gorman360.com. So Jim's title clearly identifies his niche and his passion, which is aviation and aerospace. And that makes him stand out from the crowd. Plus, as I said, he includes his web address, which I've seen it sometimes in the summary, but really never before in the title, so I think that's a great idea. Plus, notice that his picture is more than just a headshot. It's him with his airplane, and that just supports his positioning. So it's interesting because you don't even need to read the title to get the message. You can get it from his image. So let's scroll down then to the second aspect I want to point out, which is in his summary. And the first line is the most important. He says, I'm a pilot and aircraft owner who has combined my love of aviation with my experience as a writer and executive creative director in big ad agencies. So it's written in the first person, and it essentially sums up his credentials in the aviation niche right there in the first sentence. You almost don't really need to read any more than that. So clearly he is the leader of his agency, and although he has many people involved in the projects he works on, when you engage Gorman 360, you're getting him, and his profile reflects that. And then I do also want to point out the second paragraph here. Our current clients include, and then it's a veritable who's who of the aviation industry, which is his client list, so thereby establishing his credibility even further. So those are the three things I love about Jim's profile. And I'll just tell you briefly that when he came to me, I think it was 5 years ago, actually, he had just been, I think, laid off from a big ad agency and wanted to go out on his own. He had been freelancing on the side for a while. And he asked me if I thought there was enough work in the aviation industry for him to focus on it. And I said, yes, I thought there was. And in fact, it turns out there is plenty. And that is a lesson I think a lot of people can learn, that once you focus and you dig deep into your niche, there's usually plenty of work. Please don't worry about that. All right, let's move on to Stephanie Heeline of Strategic Design Studio. And you'll see here Stephanie's title reflects her agency's tagline, invigorating healthcare and wellness organizations by providing communications and visual solutions. And she also puts her company name or design firm name in her title. And she says basically who she is, what she does, and for whom. And the thing about the title is, notice here on the right, all these other people's titles follow them around wherever they go on LinkedIn. Their name, their image, their headshot, and their title. So you really do want it to say the most important thing about who you are and what you do and for whom. And I think Stephanie does that well. Then, oh yes, looking at her headshot, friendly and professional, which is perfect, I think, for her target market of healthcare. And then I'm not going to look at her summary. I want you to look at her posts because she has basically is posting content, which originally comes from her quarterly white papers. That's her content marketing campaign, but she's reposting some of the posts here on LinkedIn, and you can see the consistency for thought leadership in the images that go along with that. So it's not just a one-off. You can see that there's visual consistency in the messages and that it's a series. And I think that makes a very powerful thought leadership message. So that's Stephanie Healine. Number 3, we're looking at Jennifer Neal Lourenco. And Jen's title speaks to her market and identifies her as one of them: entrepreneur, creative thinker, and principal at K9 Strategy Plus Design Inc., which is a Toronto-based firm. And then let's look at her summary, which continues in the same vein. It essentially speaks from the same entrepreneurial vantage point, as well about her role as a leader and the agency she owns with her husband and partner. So her summary is written in the first person, and it opens very simply but emphatically with one line that sums up her agency's single focus: brand affects business results, period. That's what her target market cares about, and she does too. It's obvious. Another thing that's obvious is that they're not trying to attract everyone. In fact, one paragraph in the summary pinpoints exactly who they are looking for. Right here, we are seeking out the 3% of brands and companies, the ones that are courageous enough to look outside of their industry norms and standards, where transformation happens and revenues are affected. So I think it conveys a very strong message to a very specific audience. She also includes her web address, k9-sd.com. And then I want to call your attention also to her posts, because she is also using LinkedIn to disseminate her own entrepreneurial insights and posting content marketing with titles like "The Real Reason Your Sales Team is Asking for More Collateral." So this is also a very strong LinkedIn profile. All right, let's move on to Deborah Lamfers. Now, Deborah owns a firm called Lamfers and Associates, and you can see that her title is on the traditional side: brand and packaging specialist, Lamfers and Associates, and then a couple of slashes, and then after that it says business coach. So she's identifying her firm and their specialty, branding and packaging. But note also that her title kind of does double duty. It also indicates her side gig, I think she would call it, as a business coach. And so if that's something you're trying to do, kind of two things in one in your LinkedIn profile, this is a good model for that. Also, let's look at her summary. Unlike some of the other examples that I've shown you, Deborah here is speaking in the we in her summary. So her profile represents her firm. She says, at Lamfers and Associates, we bring your brand promise to life. And then she identifies the target markets that they focus on: housewares, specialty foods, technology, and healthcare brands. And she also describes how they work. L&A is about collaboration with you, your team, and your business, and goes on to talk a little bit more about that. And then again, right here in the posts, like most of the other agency owners, she's also reposting. This is actually from her email newsletter and her blog posts. And you can find these also on her firm's website, but for wider distribution, she's putting them on LinkedIn. All right, that is Deborah Lamfers. Number 5, Emily Lewis. Now, Emily is a partner in a web agency, and even though she runs an agency, her profile is very personal. Even her title is written in the first person, which I kind of love, and essentially lists her obsessions, and it's her obsessions that set her apart. Web expert, trusted partner, small business owner, and then she says, I'm obsessed with impeccable work and even better client service. So that's an interesting approach. You can try that. Now, her personal perspective continues into her summary, in which she describes her experience as a small business owner and how that affects her approach to client relationships, meaning that essentially they are everything. So she starts off by saying, I'm a web geek. I love building websites. I love this. She talks about her career working for nonprofits and government agencies. And then she gets to today. I run Bright Umbrella, which is the name of the web agency, a 100% women-owned and operated web agency specializing in blah, blah, blah. And then, this is interesting, she says, running my own business has taught me that my technical skills aren't what make me or my company unique. It is that we understand authentic communication and value custom strategic solutions. This is clearly what sets her firm apart from the myriad other web agencies, which is, I think, especially important for web agencies because most clients don't know enough about what they're buying to distinguish among the more technical differences if you outline them, which she doesn't. And I just think you really get a sense of the person behind the profile, and that's very important on LinkedIn. And finally, the last one is Cynthia Sterling of Sterling Creative Works. And Cynthia's title is Keyword Rich, and it includes her role, owner and creative director, the name of the company, Sterling Creative Works, and a variation on her tagline, Smart Branding for Wine, Spirits, Beer, Brand, and Packaging Design. So that works. And then if we scroll down to her summary, I like what she's doing here. It's interesting. Her summary is written from her firm's perspective, talking about she and her team. She says, me and my team, or my team and I, actually, grammatically correct. And then I love the section here, we're a good fit if you, and then she lists the qualities of their best clients. This is a really effective strategy to attract the types of clients you want. And you can do it both on your LinkedIn profile and on your website. It really does make you stand out, and it simultaneously helps your ideal clients raise their hands and your not so ideal clients weed themselves out. And I think that's important, especially for a growing firm like Sterling Creative Works, because they don't have time to talk to companies that they're not a good fit for. But then if you scroll down, the third thing I want to highlight here on Cynthia's profile is the summary has a second section, basically a second part, which is written in the first person. And here she describes the interests that she has outside of her 9-to-5 work, but that influence her work. And I think this adds a nice personal dimension. She says, I'm fascinated by the psychology behind human behavior and by the creative process. How can we create the climate for them to happen? And why do we make the choices we make, both the conscious big decisions and the little everyday decisions that make life rewarding and fun? So there's a real personal perspective, the kinds of things that are important to her that she thinks about. So there you have it, and also some examples of the work. So there you have 6 excellent examples of LinkedIn profiles. Of course, I encourage you to link with me on my LinkedIn profile. And if you haven't already signed up for my quick tips, I hope you will. You can find them at marketing-mentortips.com. There's lots of free content here on the blog, on the website. So I thank you for listening, for watching, and please stay tuned for the next marketing blueprint. Bye-bye.